On the season 19 finale of Cronkite Sports Live, Arizona State Volleyball is dancing for the first time since 2015, and it all gets started today against Georgia.
Arizona State men's basketball has won big in 2 straight games. We'll fire up the PlayStation to see how Bobby Hurley has put together his 2K My Team.
ASU's football season is over, which means it's time for the madness of the transfer portal. We'll have the latest on which stars are moving on from Tempe. All of this and so much more on Cronkite Sports Live.
Hey everyone, welcome back inside Studio 6 for the season 19 finale of Cronkite Sports Live. I'm Captain Later, he's Jonah Krell. And Jonah, it's December, which means finals week for you and I, bowl season for college football, and it's NCAA tournament time for volleyball as well.
Yeah, Kevin, these exams are driving me crazy. They're kind of the death of me right now. But meanwhile, ASU Volleyball, they're alive and well, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, right now they're in a heated match right now with the Georgia Bulldogs. It's their first NCAA tournament trip since 2015. They're currently in the 5th set with the Dogs right now. So with that being said, let's bring in WCSN volleyball reporter Max Cepeda. Max, let's talk about these major keys to a match that's currently going on right now. But beforehand, what were your keys coming into this one?
Well, Kevin, first of all, happy finale to you, and more importantly, happy tourney day as Arizona State plays in its first NCAA tournament match in 8 years. And this match, Kevin, with the unseeded Georgia Bulldogs is super intriguing for a multitude of reasons, but one that I have my eye on is the serving matchup between these two schools. The Sun Devils have been dominant from the service line all season long and led the Pac-12 and were 3rd in the country in service aces per match with 2.08, the only school in the conference to have an average over 2 per match. Meanwhile, for the ladies in red and black, they were 2nd in the SEC from the service line, averaging 1.87 aces per match. And don't forget, ASU heavily utilized that skill in their final 3 regular season ties by collecting 27 aces alone over the course of those matches. So it will be very interesting to see if the Sun Devils stay hot from the line heading into tonight.
And right now, Max, it's a tightly contested affair. ASU is the hotter team right now. They're up 20-19 in the first set. Let's talk about Georgia real quick, though. Who are some players we should look out for on the Dogs?
Well, Kevin, if I am Pac-12 Coach of the Year, J.J. Van Niel, coming into tonight, the main defensive focus for every Sun Devil player on the court has to begin and end with the SEC Player of the Year and senior middle blocker Sophie Fisher. Standing at a staggering 6'5", she has been unquestionably dominant all season long and has been doing so on both sides of the ball, averaging 4.16 kills per set, the 3rd most in the SEC, while at the same time averaging the 2nd most blocks per set in the conference at 1.34. Fisher was a major figure in the Dogs' run to the round of 32 last season and has performed well in big-time games for them since transferring from an SEC rival in Kentucky. So if the Dogs have any chance to pull off an upset tonight against the Sun Devils, do not be surprised if she is at the center of all of the attention.
Well, Max, while you're answering that question, ASU just took a 21-19 lead. So let's talk about this ASU team. It's tournament time, which means players have to step up. In your mind, who is that for ASU and J.J. Van Niel's squad?
Well, Kevin, this should not be a surprise to anyone who has been following this Sun Devils squad all year. But the stars need to show up tonight for ASU, and like Georgia, the Sun Devils have their superstar of their own in opposite hitter Marta Levinska. In a season where she was named to the All-Pac-12 team and received the most Offensive Player of the Week awards a Sun Devil has ever been given in one season, the Latvian senior has been ASU's centerpiece of point collecting all season long, as she sits 2nd in the Pac-12 and 8th in the nation in kills per set at 4.68 and finished 9th in the conference in hitting percentage at 34.5. Look, regardless of what happens during this tournament, Levinska will leave Tempe as one of the greatest players to ever grace its courts. But if the Sun Devils have any opportunity to make a dark horse run at a national title, she will need to step up starting tonight more than she ever has in her 4 years in maroon and gold.
So much. Let's see if ASU is able to close out that first set and take the win. If they do, they'll be back at it tomorrow night.
All right, let's just be real for a sec. Nobody outside the Sun Devil locker room saw this coming in year 1 for J.J. Van Niel. But here we are. And even if ASU has only booked its ticket for one stop at the moment, you never know how long that can take you. To break down what that wild ride could entail, we bring on our own Sammy Miller for some bracketology.
For the first time since 2015, the Sun Devils have punched a ticket into the NCAA tournament. This squad, led by Marta Levinska, Mary Schroll, and Shannon Shields, will be kicking off their tournament run in Provo, Utah. So without further ado, let's get into some bracketology. ASU is in the lower right region of the bracket, slotted in as the 5th seed. Their first test is against the Georgia Bulldogs, who have a beast in the middle, Sophie Fisher, who was named the SEC Player of the Year. The Sun Devils will have to put up a big block against Fisher, as well as rely on their strong serving to get Georgia out of system. If the Sun Devils can beat the Bulldogs, next up in the second round is likely BYU, who is able to play at home in Smith Fieldhouse, which is one of the loudest environments in the entire country. Now it's time for the Sweet 16, where most likely the opponent will be a familiar foe, the Pac-12 champions, the Stanford Cardinal. Now, if you forgot, the Sun Devils swept the Cardinal back on October 29th, absolutely shutting down one of the nation's top offenses, and will need to do the same with a dominant defensive game. If ASU is able to get it done over Stanford, then they will keep dancing to the Elite Eight for the first time in program history, where it will likely be against the reigning national champions, the Texas Longhorns, who have Madison Skinner on the pin, the Big 12 Player of the Year. This is a far from easy route to the Final Four, but the Sun Devils are more than hungry to make it to Tampa, where I believe the 1 seed, the Wisconsin Badgers, will come out in big thanks to their powerhouse on the left, the Big 10 Player of the Year, Sarah Franklin. If this special dance were to continue for the Sun Devil team, more likely than not, the opponent on the other side of the net is the national champions, would be the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who is coached by the Big 10 Coach of the Year, John Cook, who has one of the best liberos in the country, Lexi Rodriguez. This Sun Devil team has worked so hard all season long for this exact moment. JJ Van Niel has prepared his squad as much as he can for the pressure of the win or go home environment, and is looking to bring the first ever national championship to Tempe.
Well, I think the starts last year to this year, we lost those close games and a couple of those overtime games, especially early, at Duluth and at Bemidji. You win those 2 games and it's a very similar record to this year, so the starts aren't really all that much different. We've just done a better job of winning the close games, the 1-goal games and the overtime games.
All right, let's talk some Sun Devil hockey right now. We're going to do a before and after, at least before and after the holiday rush for ASU. This is what their numbers looked like at Thanksgiving a season ago. They went 8-7-0 at that time. Meanwhile, this year, 10-3-1. However, look at the road numbers. That tells a big story right there. They went 4-11 on the road last season compared to right now they're 0-1-1. So a big, big chance here for ASU post-Thanksgiving break. I mean, you look at last year for the Sun Devil hockey team. This was a team that upset a top 2 team in Minnesota during Thanksgiving weekend. This year they upset a top 10 Providence team. So will that same decline happen after Thanksgiving like it did for last season? Our Anthony Remedios analyzes that possibility.
Thanks, Kevin. Coming off a series split over then number 2 Minnesota during Thanksgiving last year, ASU's season looked promising. This year, the Sun Devils are riding their best start in program history, currently ranked 12th in the nation, while sitting at 10-3-1 and coming off a series split over then number 9 Providence. Let's take a look at the similarities and differences between the 2 squads. At this time last season, ASU sat at 8-7 with 2 wins over ranked teams, number 6 North Dakota in Vegas and number 2 Minnesota in overtime at home. After that point, the team went a disappointing 10-14 as a result of several key injuries, leading to a finish under 500 for the 3rd consecutive year. This season, they began the year with the sweep over then ranked number 15 Merrimack at home. In recent weeks, they took overtime wins and a series split over number 2 Denver and number 9 Providence, respectively. Aside from 1 tie and surrendering a lead in all 3 losses, the Sun Devils have taken care of business, earning 4 sweeps at Mullet. As they hit the road for the 2nd time this season, this weekend's series against Colorado College provides ASU with another big opportunity to build their resume.
I think last year was really our first year where we weren't really good on the road. I mean, in our successful years, we've been very good on the road because you had to be. We had very few home games, and then COVID year you can kind of just completely wipe out. But last year we just didn't get it done. We lost a lot of close games on the road. We had a young team. We had the 5th youngest team in college hockey. I think that had a lot to do with it. This year we have a much more experienced team and a veteran group of guys that
just sit. And the Sun Devils are looking to turn their road struggles around this season. We had to work around things a little bit, right, Gabby?
Yeah.
But we're here now. And to talk more about those road struggles, we bring in our own WCSN hockey reporter, Gabriella Chernoff. Gabby, you're a little higher than me today, so I'm going to have to look up. Is that okay?
That's okay.
Okay. All right, so now getting into those road struggles, what exactly has gone wrong on the road?
Well, you look at their season last season, that was the first season you can really say that they did struggle on the road. They went 4-11, as we just heard. And this season, if you're a fan of Sun Devil hockey, those road series kind of taper down a little bit. You only have 5 on the season and the occasional invitational or tournament also on the road. But this year, in their lone road series that they have played, they came away with a loss and a tie against Miami, Ohio over in Oxford. If you look at those two teams on paper, ASU should have been able to come away with at least one of those games. But I think a big thing that impacted their success on the road last year was that they were a very young team. As you just heard, 5th youngest in college hockey, but now you have a very experienced veteran group. You look at their new captain, Tyler Gratton from Penn State. Penn State's a powerhouse hockey school, so he has that kind of veteran wisdom. And there's other guys they brought in too. You have guys on the Sun Devils who have been there for a long time as well. And so hopefully that veteran wisdom and the raw skill of the team can combine to create some success on the road for Sun Devil hockey.
Yeah, and now that we've dissected the problem with the road struggles, what are some of the specific keys that they need to have to be successful on the road?
I think a lot of the same struggles that plague them at home will plague them on the road as well. But when you're on the road, you have that added challenge of being away, so you got to focus on them that much more. And it starts by playing a full 60 minutes. In ASU's 3 losses this year, they've led in each and every one of them. In 2 of those, they led by 3 goals. So you have to keep competing. Having that lead doesn't mean you stop playing, and they know that, but they have to show that. And another thing is, it's just so hard to win on the road in college hockey. It's an atmosphere thing. You talk about that mullet magic. It's like that 6th man. Coaches and players talk about it all the time. It gives you that little boost of energy. So when you go on the road, you have that ripped away from you and then pitted against you as well. And then another thing for them too is their tournament aspirations as an independent team. The 6 conference winners get a bid, so that's 6 spots that the Sun Devils can't get, so they have to rely on those 10 at-large bids. That's where the pairwise ranking comes in, and if you win on the road, it really helps in the pairwise and giving those committee spots for those 10 at-large bids.
And they still have some time left to turn it around. There's 1 more month left in 2023. 1 more month for maybe me to grow a little taller so I can be on your level. But in terms of the home and away left here in 2023 and ahead in 2024, what are some of those matchups and how important are they in the grand scheme of things?
Well, their next 8 games are on the road, and it's a really good opportunity for them to prove themselves as a road team before entering the NCHC next year. The first of those 6-8 matchups on the road against Colorado College. That series starts today. It'll go into tomorrow. Colorado College 7-5-0, ASU 10-3-1. If you look at these teams on paper, ASU is definitely able to pull out a sweep. Will they? I don't know. I would expect them to pull out at least 1 win. But another thing too is at this point in the season, their schedule really starts to taper down in terms of difficulty. They shouldn't have any more series against teams ranked higher than them except for maybe Cornell. But with this ease of schedule, the wins at home and away are even more important, because if you're losing to these less competitive teams, it hurts you a lot more in that pairwise ranking that I just mentioned. So if they stick to their identity, play that good hockey that we know they can play and that we've seen them play before, they'll be in good standings for the pairwise once the postseason rolls closer.
All right, Gabby, thanks so much. We'll get you a better chair next time, okay?
Sounds good to me.
All right, now let's go into some Sun Devil hoops now, as ASU returned home Wednesday after splitting a pair in Las Vegas to take on a Sam Houston State team trending in the right direction. 12-minute mark, bodies flying on the ground. Frankie Collins comes away with it, dishes to Braylon Green, the freshman. He's making an impact early on this season. ASU up 6. Still the first half. Kamari Land says, get it out of here. ASU running again, and over to Alonzo Gaffney, a little 2-hand flush, and a couple minutes later with ASU up 20-10 now. Frankie Collins, it's the playground. He says, clear out. This is my turn. Step back. I hold. Collins finished with 12 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and just before the half, another fast break. ASU running, Perez flying in, gets it to fall right before the buzzer. ASU led 38-25 at the break. And then in the second half, more of the same for ASU. Alley-oop to Alonzo. The grad forward had 12 points. Now back-to-back games with double digits. 44-27 ASU, 10:42 to go. And here comes Jemiah Neal. Look out, Euro step, on your head. Say it with your chest, young men. Sun Devils led from the jump and never trailed in this one, rolling to a 78-61 victory.
With the holidays approaching, a video game is a great gift for many, and you can never go wrong with a classic like NBA 2K. Men's basketball reporter Devin Henderson broke down all the pack openings Hurley's going to be up to this season.
One of the marks of great coaching is to be able to think, get creative, and tinker with your team in the hopes of finding the right combination to win. Balancing different talents with various profiles can be difficult. ASU's Bobby Hurley has started his 9th season at the helm in Tempe, and like many athletes across the country, Hurley spent his offseason adjusting his My Team, looking for the perfect lineup. After a summer of pack openings, Hurley pulled 13 new players to Tempe. The adjustments didn't end this summer. A new influx of talent led Hurley to deploy 5 different starting lineups in his team's first 6 games. Let's open up some more 2K packs to see how he's gone about picking his starters. Hurley's men tipped off the season in Chicago against Mississippi State with a lineup of returning junior guards Frankie Collins and Jemiah Neal, along with transfer sophomore forward Kamari Lands, graduate forward Jose Perez, and sophomore big Sean Phillips Jr. The Sun Devils proceeded to shoot 23.8% from deep and get out-rebounded by 13 in a 56-7 loss to the Bulldogs. Back to the packs, Hurley inserted Gaffney, a natural stretch big, in for Perez as an attempt to fix both these issues. The move proved beneficial as ASU shot an improved 33% from downtown and snatched 13 more boards than the game prior in a 63-52 victory over Texas Southern. Despite the victory, the Sun Devils had yet to manage 70 points in a single game all season, so Hurley reinserted Perez, a former nearly 19-a-game scorer from Manhattan, into the lineup for Lands. The new transfer responded well, pouring in 20 points in a comeback 71-69 win against UMass Lowell. Hurley then lost Phillips, a 7-foot defensive stopper, to a foot injury that game, meaning Lands, a versatile 6'8 scoring wing, was once again moved to the starting lineup. The lack of inside physicality proved insurmountable as BYU ran ASU off the floor 77-49 in Vegas, out-rebounding the Sun Devils by 19. Hurley's remedy was yet another switch, bringing junior forward Bryant Sulabunge, a stronger defensive big, into the starting 5 for Lance. That change may just have been the answer for ASU. Not only did that 5 inspire an 82-67 victory over Vanderbilt, but for the first time all season maintained as the starting lineup 2 games in a row, resulting in another victory 78-61 against Sam Houston State Wednesday night. Whether this is the final iteration of Hurley's tinkering or not, he'll want to find his steady starters soon. Conference play is looming just under a month away, and there, consistency will be key if Hurley wants to earn some more VC. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Devin Henderson.
Basketball returns to Tempe following a successful 2-1 trip to the U.S. Virgin Islands over Thanksgiving weekend. To help us take the temperature of this ASU squad, standing outside Desert Financial Arena is WCSN's Jacob Schenker. And Jacob, last year ASU started out non-conference play 7-4. They currently come into tonight's game with a record of 6-2. How does this year's team differ from last?
Well, one of the biggest difference has to be how much ASU's shooting has improved. Last year, they finished off the season 36% from the field and 29% from 3, being one of the worst shooting teams in the NCAA. This season so far, they started off 42% from the field and 32% from the 3. Now, you might be asking yourself, why is it such an increase even though ASU lost their best player in Ty Skinner? Well, much of that can be attributed to getting Jaylen Brown last season. Jaylen Brown has been a very effective scorer all around and has been able to improve her teammates as well. She's second on the team in scoring with 11.5 points per game, and she leads the team in three-point percentage with 37%.
All righty, Jacob. Are there any other players that you specifically have your eye out for moving tonight and moving forward as well?
Well, one player to keep a watch for is Treyana Crisp. She's been amazing all season long, being an effective scorer both on the outside and on the inside. Her game has improved drastically as well from last season to this season, as she currently leads the ASU in scoring with 12.1 points per game. She's also been amazing on defense and has been able to really help her teammates get better and better. Last weekend, she had 17 points on 70% shooting against South Florida. Next is Treasure Hunt. Hunt has also gotten a lot better as the season's gone on, as she started off a little slow, couldn't really get into a good rhythm, but she was able to show ASU why she can get that starter role, as she averaged 15 points per game at Paradise Jam last weekend, and hopefully they'll use her more moving forward.
All righty, Jacob, and they have the Breon January Classic this weekend. What are some expectations for the Sun Devils?
Well, as you said before, the Sun Devils went 2-1 in the Paradise Jam last weekend, and I think they're going to use that hot streak as momentum to keep it going. Let's start off with Pacific. Pacific so far is 4-2, and they could provide ASU with some competition. But don't let that record fool you, as they've only beaten one team above 500. And going over next is Xavier. Xavier being 0-6 so far on the season, haven't really gotten much going for themselves. And I think ASU is going to try and use that momentum and take advantage of their weaknesses to try and secure the dub at Desert Financial Arena.
All righty, Jacob, thank you so much for standing by out there. It's going to be a very interesting weekend for Seminole women's basketball, as you mentioned, two completely different non-conference opponents in town. ASU Wrestling recently took a trip to Columbia to take down the Missouri Tigers. You might remember a year ago when the two sides met, ASU took down those Tigers at Mullen Arena. However, in 2023, that was far from the case. Our Colin Kirkpatrick has the story.
The number 3 Missouri Tigers crushed the Sun Devils 39-6 in a historically tough loss, as ASU dropped to 1-2 in dual play so far this season. The 33-point loss was the worst in the history of the Sun Devil series against Mizzou. The Tigers would win 8 of the 10 total matches with 133-pounder Julian Klebov and superstar 149-pounder Kyle Parko claiming the only 2 victories for Arizona State. Parko claimed his 12th dual victory in a row and is now 26-2 as a Sun Devil. Parko and Klebov remain undefeated on the season at 2 wins apiece. Injuries have plagued the Maroon and Gold early, as starters Richard Figueroa at 125, Ja'Cory Teamer at 157, Kyle Valencia at 174 were all inactive against the Tigers. World-renowned heavyweight Colton Schultz did not see the mat either, as he transitions back to Tempe from international competition. Head coach Zeke Jones said Valencia and Teamer are expected to make their return this weekend, where the Sun Devils look to rebound at the Cliff King Invitational in Las Vegas.
ASU Wrestling has its hands full the rest of the way this season with a ton of ranked opponents, including a preview of what they'll soon see in the Big 12 with number 8 Iowa State coming up in January and the 11th ranked Cowboys in February. While the Sun Devils have started slow this season, don't bet against head coach Zeke Jones. He's led ASU to 5 Pac-12 titles and back-to-back NCAA team trophies. The Sun Devils have the hardware, they just need the spotlight. And with their move to the Big 12 next year, they'll have all that and more with these top-tier duels. WCSN wrestling reporter Sam Goodman explains what this move means for ASU's future.
To any sports fan flipping on ESPN this past Sunday, there might have been a bit of shock. Instead of the usual college football or college basketball, fans were treated to some NCAA wrestling, a sport rarely nationally televised on mainstream channels. The matchup between Blue Bloods and bitter rivals Iowa and Iowa State was thrilling and led to an 18-14 win for Iowa at the Cy-Hawk Duels. As the first ever live college wrestling duel on ESPN, this show just one thing: wrestling is on the rise nationally. Pulling in a viewership of 243,000 viewers on average, NCAA Wrestling became the 33rd most watched ESPN program this year. This may not seem like a lot, but after a 6-year lull, this is huge for the sport. How does this apply to the Sun Devils? Well, ASU Wrestling is consistently a highly regarded program, with Zeke Jones leading the team to compete for Pac-12 and national titles consistently. With highly ranked collegiate wrestling matchups set to shine on the national stage more often, the Sun Devil wrestling team may find themselves on ESPN and other networks soon. This couldn't be more true as the team prepares to join the Big 12 Conference, famously a powerhouse of wrestling. With Arizona State surely to go through a gauntlet of wrestling matchups, it's only a matter of time before the Sun Devils find themselves in primetime.
While Zeke Jones has established his program nationally, Kenny Dillingham's squad is still a work in progress. This week, veteran leaders Jalen Conyers and Jordan Clark announced their decision to enter the transfer portal, and more could be on their way too.
Yeah, and even this morning, quarterback Drew Pine announced he's going portaling as a graduate transfer. But for teams like the Sun Devils, Jonah, this week is so crucial in figuring out what the direction of the program is going to be for the next season. As we all know by now, winning the transfer portal is a necessity to compete in college football in the modern era.
Absolutely, and the uncertainty ahead means it's back to the drawing board for Dillingham with the offseason now in full swing. And as WCSN football reporter Riley Swenson tells us, it just takes time.
Of college football, building a program is a lot like the construction of a house. In Kenny Dillingham's first year as a head coach, it was all about laying the foundation. He tweeted this following the season, crediting the seniors on doing just that. It was a season that saw ups and downs and overall was seen as a disappointment by many. But if you thought this rebuild was going to happen overnight, you were simply mistaken. A prime example is Florida State, which had their program completely revamped with Mike Norvell taking over in 2020 and of course Kenny Dillingham joining him as the offensive coordinator. The first two seasons, the Noles win a combined 8-14 and failed to make a bowl game. Now in 2023, they're in the middle of a 12-0 season with as good of a chance as anyone to play in the college football playoff. So how does ASU get to that point? Well, Kenny clearly has a vision of how it needs to be done.
The hard part is in college athletics, right? What comes first? The support comes first. Unfortunately, in pro sports, the support doesn't have to come before the wins. You can't do that in college athletics. The support is what allows you to ride the wave.
The support is one thing, but playing well on the field is another. Dillingham isn't blind to that aspect and knows what needs to happen in order to build off the foundation that was built this year.
We have to bring guys into the program. They have to teach those guys the standards of what it looks like. We have to then get enough depth by bringing guys in that we can practice.
The record books may say this season was a failure, but perhaps it was never meant to be successful. Laying a foundation takes time, and with it in place, Kenny and crew hope to start building the structure of the football program throughout the offseason and into the fall. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Riley Swenson.
Tonight, the eyes of America will be on Las Vegas for the final Pac-12 Conference Championship game. It's a season that many consider to be one of the conference's best, and you can see why right there. This is the most recent college football playoff rankings. That aforementioned championship matchup features undefeated 3rd-ranked Washington and 5th-ranked Oregon. That was an instant classic when these two teams played in October. I can't wait for the rematch. But then look, 15th-ranked Arizona. They're going bowling for the first time since 2017 and have a chance to win 10 games after only winning 1 just 2 seasons ago. And then you have Oregon State at 20. I know it's been a rough year if you're a fan of the Beavers. I get it. 8-4. Your coach just left for Michigan State. A lot of uncertainty, but hey, another quality year for one of the more underrated programs in college football. So to talk more about this final season of the Pac-12, we join the native son of the conference. Here's WCSN's Blake Neiman.
The Pac-12's last dance is a doozy. And what is considered arguably the conference's best rivalry, number 3 Washington meets number 5 Oregon in the most high-stakes Pac-12 title game ever. The Huskies are the first team to go undefeated in the regular season in the 12-team era and have won 19 straight games since their loss to Arizona State last season. Meanwhile, the Ducks have been on a rampage since their lone defeat on Montlake, winning by an average margin of 29.4 points. With college football playoff implications on the line, the path for each team is simple: win and you're in. The cream of the conference's crop have had their resumes bolstered by the Pac's top-to-bottom depth and supreme quarterbacks. 8 teams from the conference clinched bowl berths this season, the most since 2017. The Heisman Trophy remains up for the taking, and Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix will try to write their signature on the Pac's last line. Even through all the chaos, cannibalization, and collapse over the conference's 108-year history, tonight's winner of the Ducks and the Dogs has the chance to be the final national champion from the Conference of Champions.
Thanks, Blake. From the creme de la creme to the bottom, there are still memorable moments for the Sun Devils. From truffle fries to bamboo, Kenny Dillingham has had his fair share of memorable quotes. A media member's dream, to be honest. You kind of just take them for granted at this point. So WCSN football reporter Ben Paris went ahead and found some of the best one-liners from year one of CKD. Have a look.
This is literally home. Home. But I do believe we finally hit rock bottom.
But I will say this, I'm so proud of our guys. Our guys are battling. We're 1-6. I don't care if I'm playing Michael Jordan in basketball. I'm not playing him to lose. Otherwise, why would I play? I'm not just gonna play because it's fun. No, what's fun is competing to win. So you're playing to win. That's it. So let's just see if it works. And that was the process. Was as simple as that. It's not rocket science. It's not even rocket surgery, right? I knew today would be when they receive horrible news on a Tuesday practice in the morning before we meet for special teams.
Yeah, cleaning the bus after the game. That's the difference.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous, to be honest. And I want to play and 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 play until we win.
Like it takes 4 to 5 years to grow bamboo, and you water it like a crazy person for 4 to 5 years, not understanding that but the year 5 it starts to grow. I'm from here, so I can say anything I want about the Valley, right? Because I'm one of them. I'm talking about myself. We're front runners.
This is worth it. I mean, I'm sleeping on the couch. You know, we got Elijah Badger falling out of his bed right in the middle of the night. Sorry, Badge. Right? So we got Badge falling out of his bed. You got me sleeping on the couch.
It's hard to imagine a world without the Pac-12. I know we've hammered every possible storyline imaginable on this show regarding the conference's demise, but now the time has come, well, for football at least, which spurred this whole headache of conference realignment in the first place. So many obituaries for the league have been written and told by many across college football, even by the networks who play a role in the league's members going their separate ways for quote-unquote greener pastures. Last week, college football fans witnessed the final slate of regular season games, and in just a few hours, the conference's final championship game kicks off in Las Vegas. But after tonight, Pac-12 football is dead. And if you're an ASU fan, a second consecutive 3-9 season before headed to the Big 12 is understandably frustrating, especially when 3 of the 9 losses were one-score games, and one of them being against a Washington team that is currently 1 win away from a trip to the college football playoff. But overall for ASU, there has to be an awareness that recency bias will impact the outlook fans will have on this team. Getting blown out by Oregon and rival Arizona at home to close out the season will leave a sour taste in the mouths of Sun Devil fans everywhere. But guess what? Rome wasn't built in a day. The players and the staff have even admitted it. These type of rebuilds take time. When Kenny Dillingham was hired last November, you can make a case that the program was in ruins, and expecting results right away and inheriting the situation he did would be insane. Look what happened this year in Boulder. Colorado fans everywhere legitimately thought that team would compete immediately. And guess where they finished? Dead last in the Pac-12 for the second straight season. There's belief within that locker room for the changes in culture that Dillingham and his staff have implemented. And if you're an ASU fan, here's the best part. The man in charge, this is his dream job. He wants to retire here. That's what you need for a rebuild like this. Someone who views this place as the holy grail. That's the only way this program can one day find success and eventually sustain it. Sure, there's going to be lots of change this offseason, both on the roster and perhaps even on Dilly's staff. But if you support Sun Devil football, keep the faith. Take it from a lifelong Chicago Cubs fan. It's so worth giving your support to a team when they're bad, because when they get to the top one day, it's going to be so worth it. And the joy you'll experience will be 10 times better. And that's the way it is.
Feedback's a little bit better than your Cubs, Kevin, but who knows? We'll see. Top plays. One Sun Devil highlight from the Territorial Cup last week. Troy O'Meara, full extension, a 31-yard touchdown grab, but the Wildcats would win it 59-23.
From the gridiron to the hardwood, number 2, here we go. Arizona State against Sam Houston State. This is the other night. A brick on one end leads to a breakout for the Sun Devils. There's Perez. Little razzle-dazzle to the lob for Alonzo Gaffney. Last year, the ASU was nicknamed Lob U. Could be an early sign they're back on their way, Jonah.
And number 1 will go to Mullet Arena for some hockey, some top 20 hockey, as ASU would take on number 9 Providence. Dylan Jackson on the breakaway in OT. Forehand, backhand. and 5-hole. Dylan Jackson, the overtime winner. We'll see you in Mullet.
Yes, we will. However, it wouldn't be a season finale without some not top plays as well. Number 3, yeah, there's going to be a lot of ASU football on this one. And this is where we knew that maybe punting could be an issue. Season opener against Southern Utah. Punt from Josh Carlson gets blocked and gets taken back to the distance. That's a house call for the Thunderbirds. And guess what? They kept that game within 1 possession. ASU would win it, but it was close.
Yeah, this was rock bottom, Kevin, for number 2. Drew Pine coming in. This is his first snap to replace Trenton Bourget, who was already hurt, and bam! Oh, strip sack. And Drew Pine, now in the transfer portal. Drew, we wish you well, but that was not a good start right there.
One of the 8 turnovers they had in that game. And number 1, Jaden Rashada, this was preseason, led one fly to the end zone, and look out there. That's our Blake Neiman who gets drilled. You can add him to the injury list that ASU football had this season. However, we're thankful to report no cameras were harmed in the making of that not top play. However, it is the season finale, like I said, which also means we have to say goodbye to one of our club's finest. Our executive producer, Nick Borgia, has been leading our production since season 16 of CSL. That's spring of 2022. Under his command, CSL has reached unimaginable heights, like a BEA award, and early this year we were informed that CSL won its first Emmy. He was instrumental in having our team think outside the box and finding new and intriguing ways to tell a story to our audience. And Jonah, I know I speak for all of us here at Cronkite Sports Live, where we say thank you, boys, for everything you did. And I know we are so incredibly excited to see what you do next and what the future holds in store for you. However, Jonah, Nick isn't the only person leaving CSL today.
Yep, that's right, Kevin. Oh, look at the graphic.
All right, let's see what we have here. We've been informed there is something for us right now, so we're going to take a look at that right now.
Kevin Malater. He's Kevin Malater.
Kevin Malater. I'm Kevin Malater.
Kevin Malater.
My name's Kevin Malater. And good position to receive a bid in the college. In Salt Lake City hosts a fun matchup here at Desert Financial Arena. Await.
Jonah Krell.
Jonah Krell here. Jonah Krell taking a good hard look in the mirror. 2020 season will mark Charlie with this game dubbed the J.O. Mary. Like little contest from USC. To make them, as crazy as it sounds out loud, a 12.5-point favorite.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh. Wow.
I couldn't believe they did that. I was like in my dorm room, just on Zoom call for one of those, the old Vault graphics.
That's amazing. Shout out to our great crew for that. Jonah, I mean, this has been a fun ride.
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything. This last show, it's the last show for us, Gavin. I can't believe it. For me, I remember my first time in this studio in fall 2020. I had to wear a mask, and I waited outside the studio until it was time for my segment. I was literally called in. And since then, it's been a goal of mine to be at this desk just talking sports with you and with all you guys back home. So to finally have this opportunity as a main anchor this semester has been truly amazing. To Nick Borgia, Mike McQuaid, Trey Jordan, Ethan Ryder, Peyton Gallagher, Gabby Ducharme, Gareth Kwok, so many more people, thank you. Even if you don't know, you all taught me patience, and that hard work truly does pay off. And WCSN has been such an important part of my journey here at Cronkite, not only allowing me to tell these stories, be in this seat, but to have friends for life like yourself, Kevin.
Thank you, Jonah. I mean, I share the same sentiment. I couldn't agree more. These last 3 semesters at the desk for me have been a blast, to say the least. Getting to sit here every other Friday, sharing stories is something I could not have imagined when I joined this club my freshman year. There are so many people I've got to thank. Once again, Nick Borgia, but I also want to thank Ronan Haycoop, Henry Dominy, Jake Seymour, and Peyton Gallagher. I'm forever grateful for all of your trust in me, especially when I joined the desk as a first semester sophomore last year. And to the people I've got a chance to share this desk with, obviously yourself, Jonah, it's been an honor. Ethan Tuttle, Sammy Miller, Matt Venezia, Riley Swenson, and Ben Paris, thank you all for being incredible teammates. I would always look forward to those Thursday nights and Friday mornings in the CSL edit bays where we tell stories, jokes, and just have fun, because that's what this is all about. And some of my favorite memories associated with this show have come with you guys in those edit bays and during those times. Words simply cannot express my gratitude towards everyone behind the scenes who make people like myself and Jonah look and sound good every single show. And without them, we would be nothing as a unit. It's been an honor and a privilege to sit up here these last 3 seasons of this show, but I'm extremely excited for what the future future holds for Cronkite Sports Live. So with that being said, that concludes season 19 of Cronkite Sports Live. For all the phenomenally talented people in the studio and in the control room, alongside John Crowell, I've been Kevin Later. We thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in 2024 for season 20 of Cronkite Sports Live. We'll talk to you then.